Welcome to the Gateway Clipper, located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania's Station Square. This is episode 22 of my prologue. Because this tour shows so many landmarks in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I have listed them in the description. Anyways, enjoy.
Before I do, I have a packet for the captain of the day, Peter Montana. It's right up here on the third deck with me. If you want to come on up, Peter Montana, you get to be the captain of the day. I believe that comes with a hat and a few other goodies, so come on up. So we just went underneath the first of many bridges on our tour. It's appropriate that this is the first one, as this is the oldest bridge in the city. This is the Smithfield Street Bridge. One of 6 buildings. All buildings have those spires on the top. The architects were inspired by neo-Gothic architecture. In particular, built one tower in London, which is called the Victoria Tower. Professional sports teams here, but you only get one guess as to what the team colors are, because it is always the same. We are black and gold. Say from the airport, the city is completely obscured by the mountain until you exit that tunnel where the city of Pittsburgh explodes into view. And no city really knows how to make an entrance quite like Pittsburgh. So you get to enjoy this marvelous sight and then immediately panic as you need to merge. If you look to the right, you can see Point State Park. You see that flagpole. Now if you look down, you'll see that small building with an angled roof. That's the Fort Pitt blockhouse. That's all that remains of the original Fort Pitt, which was built between 1759 and 1761. The blockhouse was the first line of defense to anyone who wanted to attack the fort. 150 feet in the air. But if you notice, it's a little bit short of that today. That's because there are wind sensors built in. If the breeze is a little bit too strong, it will rise and fall depending on the wind speed. Now, the park itself is 36 acres of dedicated green space. And it wasn't always like that. In the middle of the 20th century, this was a lot of urban decay, a lot of shuttered factories. A laughing stock to the city. Locals nicknamed it the Bridge to Nowhere. No one could use the Bridge to Nowhere, but one person tried. It was in 1964, very late at night, a 21-year-old college student. Somehow the barricades that were supposed to prevent this kind of thing from happening at the beginning of the Fort Duquesne Bridge, the barriers were not in place like they were supposed to. Underneath, it might trip on you a little bit, it's named after Roberto Clemente. In case you don't know who that was, Roberto Clemente was a Puerto Rican baseball player who played right field for the Pirates from 1955 until 1972. But it was in 1972 that he sadly lost his life in a plane crash. He was on that plane because he was trying to deliver aid to earthquake victims in Nicaragua. Then he was known as Andrew Warhola. He was kind of a shy, sickly kid. He had to stay home from school a lot, but he had a strong artistic streak, and his mother spearheaded the modern environmentalist movement. Now that we're clear of the sister bridges, I want you to look back up to the cityscape. You see that tall, dark is a double-decker railroad bridge, and it's still in operation today, but only the top deck is still used. If you may have noticed, the piers look like the stone on the top is a different color than the stone on the bottom, almost like it was added after the fact. That's because it was. Back when we were by the point, I had mentioned that the peninsula shape that is downtown Pittsburgh is nicknamed the Golden Triangle. That term has existed since the early 20th century. It's referencing the fact that way back then, that's where all of Pittsburgh's banks were located. PNC Park, one of, if not the best stadium in the country to catch a ball game. And they say that because there really isn't a bad seat in the house. Even if you're way up in the cheap seats, there is nothing to obstruct your view, and you are no more than 88 feet from the action, no matter where you sit. And if the action on the field is distressing to you and you got to look away in embarrassment, you can just enjoy Pittsburgh's beautiful skyline because you get a great view of that as well. Now, there are statues of players around the other side of the stadium of different eras, but there's one that we can see from the river, and it's coming up here on the left-hand side. It's a bronze statue of a man running with his cap held high in the air. That man is Bill Mazeroski, and that is from a moment in Pirates history, the 1960 World Series. That year, the Pirates were playing against the very heavily favored New York Yankees. But the Pirates stuck it out. They made it all the way to Game 7, and they made it all the way to the 9th inning, where they were tied 9-9. At the bottom of the ninth, Bill Mazeroski was up to bat, and he unexpectedly hit a walk-off home run right there. That's small for an NFL stadium. That's because Heinz Field was designed to sell out, and it does. Not that the Steelers needed help with that, but you can get your name on the waiting list for season tickets if you want, but be prepared to wait a while, because the waiting list for Steelers season tickets is, and I am not joking, 20 years long. They were just trying to walk home after what I can only assume is a 14-hour shift. A Scooby-Doo level of scheming, if I've ever heard it. But apparently this very silly plan actually worked. The trail got a reputation for being haunted, and either that or it got a reputation for harassment. Either way, people stopped taking the trail, and it was completely abandoned and was no longer there by the 1930s.
In addition, I got this photo album. And that's all.